If you get confused again, please think about the meaning of the kanji characters. 皆さんこんにちは and welcome to Let's Ask Shogo. Samurai are very famous around the world. You too might be a fan of their history and culture, just like I am. However, as you study about samurai, you will most certainly come across Bushi-do. Bushi-do is the moral code of the samurai, the way of how warriors in Japan should act. Do means path or way in Japanese, so that makes sense. But what is Bushi? Is it the same meaning as samurai? Then why didn't it call it Samurai-do? Today, as a katana sword trainee studying samurai history and culture, I will explain the difference between samurai and Bushi. At the end of this video, I will also talk a little about other terms related to samurai, such as Mononofu, Musha, Bushō, and Daimyo. それでは本日も参りましょう。Let's get to today's main topic right away. What are the differences between samurai and bushi? In order to answer this question, we must take a look at the meaning of each word. Samurai is written like this in Japanese. This single kanji character was originally created from a verb named sabrao that began to be used in the Heian era. Sabrao meant to serve or protect the aristocrats. Eventually, somewhere in between the Kamakura to the Sengoku era, the noun samurai was born as the word to describe a person who saburao. Bushi, on the other hand, is written like this in Japanese. The first kanji character, bu, represents war, military, and martial arts. The second kanji character, shi, is used to represent a professional. For example, a lawyer is bengoshi, and a caregiver is a kaigoshi. So bushi means a professional of battle and martial arts. Now that you know the meaning of each word, I think you have a broad image of their differences. Let me break it down for you. Samurai and bushi both existed from the Heian era. However, samurai were those who served the noblemen with power of each age, like the aristocrats or the shogunate. Although almost every samurai in each era trained in martial arts, it didn't mean that every one of their jobs was necessarily being a warrior. On the other hand, anyone who believed that their profession was to fight could call themselves a bushi. So for example, warriors like ronin and ashigaru could be called a bushi, but not a samurai. To wrap this up, it means that samurai were the upper class of bushi, who served the authority of each era. And bushi were professionals of fighting, who were not all necessarily samurai. So it can be said that the samurai were kind of like the knights in Europe, with their high class and the right to ride horses, while other warriors could not. Anyway, if you get confused again, please think about the meaning of the kanji characters. Then next, let's take a look at the 4 other terms that are related to samurai. Mononofu, Musha, Bushō, and Daimyo. First, Mononofu is written like this in Japanese. Doesn't it look a little familiar? Yes, it uses the same kanji characters as Bushi, so it represents the same thing. It is an expression that corresponds to the ancient Japanese language and can be used when you want to consciously give it an old-fashioned nuance. So it's not as commonly used as bushi. Next, Musha is written like this. So you know now that the first kanji character, Bu means war, military, and martial arts, right? The second kanji character, sha, simply represents a person. So Musha just means a person who fights in battle. If I were to come up with a difference between Bushi and Musha, Bushi has more of a social position kind of nuance to it, because the kanji character shi is used to represent professions, while Musha is more focused on the image of a combatant. By the way, there's a different word, bujin, and jin also means person, so it is almost exactly the same as Musha. Then, the third term, Bushō, is written like this. Yes, a lot of the Bu character. The second character, Shō, means leader. So Bushō represents a military commander. So that's why we call the warlords of each region in the Sengoku era, Sengoku Busho. Then lastly, let's talk about Daimyo. Daimyo is written like this in Japanese. Please don't panic because it doesn't have a bu in it. I'll explain about these kanji characters too. Dai means big and myo means name. So it means that your name is big, as in widely known by many people. Namely, Daimyo represents the Bushi in the samurai society, who has a lot of power and owns many territories and subordinates. Then lastly, today's conclusion. Samurai means a person who serves, and Bushi means a person whose profession is to fight in war and battle. Samurai were the upper class of the Bushi, who had the right to serve the noblemen with power of each era. Bushi were not all necessarily samurai, so Ronin and Ashigaru could also be classified as a Bushi. Mononofu is an old-fashioned way of referring to the Bushi. Musha represents a combatant. Bushō is a military leader. Just like the warlords of the Civil War era, Sengoku Busho, Daimyo represents a Bushi who has a lot of power and owns many territories and subordinates. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. If this video helped you to deepen your understandings towards samurai culture, just hit the like button to let me know. And my goal is to achieve 100,000 subscribers by January 2022, so your help is what I need. In this channel, you'll be able to take a closer look at Japanese traditional culture, tips on traveling to Kyoto, and social problems of Japan. So learners and lovers of Japanese language and culture, be sure to subscribe to enjoy more content. Thanks again, and I'll see you again soon. どうもありがとうございました。Everyone, once again, thank you very much for watching this video and welcome to the Omake talk. So today I thought I could talk a little bit about the three things I want to talk about. So Ronin, Ashigaru, and Bushi-do. So in the video I talked a little bit about the Ronin and Ashigaru, but I didn't have enough space in the subtitles to explain about them, so I thought I could talk them a little bit about them too. Actually, about the Ronin, I've made a video about it just right after I started this channel, yes. So simply, as you probably know from a lot of movies and such, Ronins are samurais who lost their lords or have been abandoned from their community because they have committed a crime or such. So again, samurai was a class in society. It was a privilege. You know, the people who lost that privilege, their jobs, their rights as a samurai will become Ronin, yes. And Ashigaru, on the other hand, is the opposite of Daimyo, I guess you can say. They are the low-class soldiers, and Ashigaru actually has existed from the Heian era as well, in the times of when samurais and Bushi started to exist. But in time when, in the Heian era, the battle style for samurais were usually done on horses on one-on-one kind of battle. So at those times, the Ashigaru's main jobs were to
would serve the samurai, like for example, carry their items, their weapons for them. And eventually from there, coming into like the Civil War era, the Sengoku era, the Ashigaru were brought into the battlefield to fight as well. And so the term Ashigaru actually, their meanings, what they represent changes throughout the history as well. And lastly, a little bit about Bushi-do. In the beginning, I said, the difference, what is the difference between samurai and Bushi-do? Why didn't they call it samurai-do and such, right? I believe this is because Bushi-do, the reason why it's so famous now is because of a book written in the 19th century called Busho-do, the Soul of Japan by Nitobe Inazo. So I talked about this a little bit in a different video too again, yes. But actually, a lot of people think that this is when Bushido, the name itself, was born. But Bushido, although it became famous all around the world thanks to this book, this term Bushido, the word itself, actually existed from the beginning of the Edo period, which would be around the 17th century. But the point is that the meaning of Bushido was completely different at that time. In the beginning of the Edo period, Bushido was much more practical for the warriors, the Japanese warriors, the Bushi, for them to survive in battle, how to become a stronger warrior, how to survive in the society, and such. And in the Nitobe Inazo's book, Bushido, it became more of a, like a moral code kind of thing. So it's very different. But anyways, this word Bushido has existed from about 200 years before Nitobe Inazo wrote that book. So I believe that Nitobe Inazo obviously studied about this, and he probably took that word, and that's the reason why they didn't call it samurai-do, because Bushido is about all the warriors in Japan. So I believe that's the reason why we call it Bushido and not samurai-do. Okay, alright everyone, thank you so much for watching, and if you have any other questions about anything, I'll be happy to answer you, so please write them down in the comments. Okay, thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.